Jonah, me brethren. Oh my
How you
gosh,
gonna
look
do
at that, bro. Do I gotta go get some shades?
I mean, we gotta go, bro. We in it right here, man.
I
I'm
mean, I
like, I
could
gotta
get
dress
some
up for you,
shades.
bro.
I
Right?
love
Let's
it. I
go,
love it.
man.
We're
We in the
ready for a
studio,
run.
bro.
Brother, I was just about to go for a run today and then it started dumping snow, but your glasses are making me feel like I should have gone.
Uh, I had a similar flow with you, man. I like jumped on my bike to try to get one in, and I didn't get to the gym all the way, but I still felt good to get that heart rate up and get the body moving before, coming in with you. And I'm like, I don't want to be out on the streets and miss our assignment, our appointment. You know what I mean? Time is precious.
Amen, brother. How you doing?
Man, I can't complain, bro. All is well right now.
Mm.
Feeling good, feeling grounded back in the space. Let me turn this down a little bit right here. There's bumping in the background. How's my audio real quick? Also, let me check in.
You sound, yeah, you sound good on my end. Maybe give me a little sound check again.
Check microphone. We on this one twos. I'm on my
Yeah,
headphones right now.
it's good. It doesn't seem like anything malfunctioning. So I don't know what sound you're going for, you're picking up, but you're clear.
Okay. Yeah, as long as I'm clear for you, we can work the other side of that. But it's about our clarity and calm. Sometimes the microphone doesn't pick up as good,
Totally.
with it.
Totally.
This is a fake mic right here that's happening.
Okay. I was like, yeah, it sounds a little bit I don't know if tinny's the word, but like headphony. So got it.
Yeah,
That's part of the background. That's hilarious.
well, it is for now because my laptop. I need the cord from Sweden, from brother in Sweden right now. It's
Oh
right
no.
there, so he's sending it. But real quick, while we're doing it, let me do a quick shift of one more idea for the audio and get a
Cool.
tester with you.
My Swedish brothers and sisters are letting you down.
Let myself down on the
Oh,
pack. You know?
I like that. Some personal responsibility, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, man. Hey, that's not him. That's me leaving my power behind.
That's right.
Right? It's like, okay, yeah, there's a lot around that too. We can uncover. But how's this? Is it any better to you?
It does sound a little bit better, actually. Yeah.
All right, cool. That'd be awesome if it's improves. All right, well, shoots. Aloha, man. Let's get it started. Welcome home. Yeah, it's good to drop in with you. Welcome. This is the Jedi Alliance podcast right here, where we just a space where we shine our light, on our community of peacemakers and enlightening the world with love. Is our only
Mm,
solution right there. So, unity is the way. And
mm.
yeah, I'm Jonah Martin Lyon in the building right now. And who I got with me, I got Skippy Mesirow. I got the elk himself here live. We're in it. We're raw. We're real, authentic, and wholesome in the space. And yeah, we just dove right in. So we already record. This will be an unedited full version, of us in this, which is a great place to step into and do some I feel you coming off of this men's work and this retreat. We'll
Mm.
get into that too in this conversation, but just to be in here in this, sacred space with us and to have the level of vulnerability,
Mm.
cultivated in ourselves. And so just yeah, I want to acknowledge that, man, and the immediacy of choosing that. We first met at the Independent National Convention
Mm.
and had already felt each other's vibes, but then also to like be out there and I was moving through my own kind of place of exclusion, including excluding myself,
Mm.
at a little bit of point energetically and I went outside and I hadn't done my morning ritual, my usual daily meditation I start my day with. And I hadn't got to that. So I dropped right into the rites, into the rocks and you came in and joined me, and so again, just the brotherhood right there. So thank you for being here, in this man. And yeah, welcome.
Thanks,
Peace.
brother. Thanks for having me in your space. It's a sacred thing, the podcast space that we hold. And so yeah, I just really honor being here. I'm looking forward to it. No idea what to expect. But I will just say that conference, which was deeply impactful and connective, revelatory in some ways for me personally on my own journey. And you are absolutely a top memory and a reason for that. Like your heart is beautiful. The inclusion you offered me in the ritual at the perfect time, the conversation that we had with others as well, just really, really meaningful. And I left with a extremely high opinion of the lion. So glad to be here.
Mm, yeah, bro. It's perfect, like just to like flow right in that. And I feel, something else, right, is, when I was reading in and going in, doing my due diligence, studying, looking at your website and like feeling in the energy of what you were holding in that,
Mm,
that sacred ceremony, and a lot of leaders coming together in a very unknown, curious kind of space. Like we don't know necessarily what we're getting into when we arrive at these things, right? We might have a little bit of an idea, but it's always a whole lot more,
hmm
But the intention to like, right, helping you heal our politics, right,
mm,
well-being and performance coaching for heart-centered public servants, and then the therapy in action, right? Like that's what I was just speaking to, right? Is like you were brought therapy to me in
mm,
a place of healing in this moment, in all of that. And where I was in that place of like, yeah, I want some stage time.
mm,
I wanted some presence around that because it's my second one being, and I've been in the production level of it and support in so many different ways. And that was an area where I was like, okay, it's time for me to get some stage time,
mm,
but I get to step into responsibility about one, asking for that, right?
mhm,
And owning that, and then also owning what I was in and the support I was able to provide and just my presence and being there, and
mm,
being an ambassador of Aloha,
mm,
and representing Maui, representing Hawaii Nei in a place where we're talking about independence,
mm,
and freedom and sovereignty and the movement. And
mm,
so it was like you said, a powerful convergence. Walked
mm,
away with feeling very empowered, and even having to be there and play with the like staph infection, and
mm.
so like right, so I'm like healing that part in myself while also having the other parts, of that container. Like you said, it was beautiful. So thank you.
Out of curiosity, what did you want stage time?
Yeah, presenting on a lot of what you did, right?
Mm,
I feel like I'm a good conductor of conversation, somebody who can facilitate and move the energy of the room,
mm,
and so like the conversation, be able to pull out those golden nuggets of the conversation, and so really reflecting back, yeah, what I'm hearing, what I'm listening to on, many dimensions, right? It's
mm,
like I'm listening to like where the person's character, where their heart is, right? Where that integrity is and what they're sharing. Are they sharing from their heart, or is this a performance,
yes.
right? And so that's what I like about what the energy we're already in today is like you said, let's go raw,
Mm,
and that's how our relationship has been since the moment we dived into the deep end together. It was just like, lion right now. Let's get raw and real and authentic and keep it wholesome, because
mm,
who knows where this unedited version of content that we're unpacking right now goes, and to be in a
mm,
space where I sit with, as a father and wanting to be an educator, and already am, but like who am I in a space with the sacredness of
mhm,
that, and it's children. How do I want to be
mhm,
and represent in that way, for the many generations, what if it's auntie, or grandma, great grandma in the building. Like I don't want to be over here dropping all the bombs, right? And now it makes the space harder to digest or to be present in.
yeah, it's cool. I appreciate that reflection. And also like the ownership of I want some stage time. I think it's something that I've certainly experienced, clients have experienced of why, right? Um, do I want that spot for me, in service to me, or do I want it into service for someone else? If there's someone want to say hi, I can't see them. They look like a lion right now.
I know, right? My mom just walked in the building right
Oh,
now. Like she brought,
oh, oh, she brought you a
and
cookie.
yeah,
Oh
she
my
brought me
goodness.
some,
That's not the cutest shit that's ever happened on a podcast. Grown ass
right?
Jonah is here with his lion and his like little baby, what is it, Yiddle? And then mom comes with a cookie. It's good. It's good.
Yeah,
It's good.
yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's fun, man. Right? The green screens and and like that, and the rawness too of that. Adding in like I should just open it up, but we'll make that an easier click in the future. The background and the radical
Yeah.
inclusion, but there's consent in that too. And so
Mhm.
there's the other part of that is like, do I have time to ask this person and then interrupt your flow of conversation, right? So it's like keeping the studio fresh and clean as well. As much as
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I was just reflecting that I think, we can, as humans in leadership, struggle with where our foot is. Is this serving me or is this serving others? And it's just beautiful to hear you reflect
can.
both sides of that coin, honestly, because at the end of the day, we're all human. We all have both inclinations, and it's about the ownership of both and finding the balance that's right. And I was at a summit just after we connected, a Fit for Service summit, and this gentleman said something. It was in the Q&A section. He was talking about going. He's a contractor, and he was talking about going to Mexico once a year to build homes with his daughter for folks, just as a give back. And he said, when you're really, really in service, it's hard to tell who's serving who.
Mm,
is
mm,
is the person being served the
love
person
that.
receiving the home, or him who gets to share this incredible experience of spirit and service with his daughter to bring them closer together? And you sharing both sides of that, like, I'm imagining you on that stage as a facilitator, bringing your genius in such a way that both fills your cup, makes you feel good, um, is of service to those on the stage, helping them bring forth what's most important, their best selves, and then for the audience it's going to take that message and enact it. And yeah, it's just what came through for me.
Mm, mm. That's beautiful, bro. Thank you for sharing that story because it's right. It's like we were that's been really strong lately is to be in service is one, and it's always beautiful, and there's even more elegance to that, which would be the fulfillment, right, of that service,
Mm,
to feel the fulfillment that the cup is being filled while in that place of service.
mm,
Then we never run into the sense of burnout or our cup feeling empty, even though we've been serving a lot. It's like maybe what I'm serving is not serving me, right? And if it's not serving me, maybe it's actually not serving the collective either,
mm,
in that too. And so it's a good place to have that self awareness and to um, step into it, into this selfless service place.
mm,
Uh, so thanks for reflecting that. And for me, it definitely, like, I hope that it comes from that place,
mm,
and being stepping into public service and, running for mayor of Maui, like that was more of an ask from the community and being like, oh, is that the way that I can serve the community? That's what's being reflected to me. So, step take that step, vulnerable, like talk about a raw step, right? It's like, okay,
mm,
I'm putting myself into, another magnifying glass. Yeah,
mm,
of where this even more rawness, around the things. They're just like, I gotta keep myself as in integrity as can in the things that I do and how I represent, you know,
mm,
and that's was part of, again, where I guess the ask and taking responsibility is in the INC. I think in politics in general, what we're seeking more of is more diversity,
mm,
more cultural representation, and cultural sensitivity.
mm,
And I say cultural because it is more of that than it is what we would call, other uh, words, ethnic, right, or
mm,
racial, or gender or sexuality, or these these places of finding, how can we differentiate
Hmm.
or identify in these things, but where's our common place, where's the
Hmm.
common ground? and and that's where I think we're all part of a humanitarian culture, right?
Hmm.
That is diverse, and that's what makes it beautiful, right? It's like,
Hmm.
and look, and it's like your background is like shows structure.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of structure I see in the
Hmm.
background behind you, and then my background is like very like all the colors, not just the seven
Hmm.
of the rainbow, but it's like, right. And so the balance again of
Hmm.
the ecosystem or environment we get to live internally and externally.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I think one, I appreciate the framing of running. I think too often we can, and I have, get caught up in the idea of I'm running. So I want your vote to be X. And it's
Mm,
the election is never about what role you hold. It's about what you can contribute to your community through your unique perspectives, talents, ability to bring people together towards common challenges. And the election is not about people choosing you. It is about you sharing your ideas and people deciding if those ideas are right for the community. And to have this beautiful crowdsourced opportunity for the community to have that discussion. And whether you win or lose, you've won because you've given the community an opportunity, and the community through that conversation has found a higher level of alignment that is right for it in that moment. And that community might choose things that don't actually benefit it, but that community then gets to learn and then gets to make the next choice, just like a human being. So I love you bringing
mm,
that perspective forward, because that's really how this thing is to work, and it works best in the diversity of all things, not just races, not just sexes, like you said, but also ideas, right?
mm,
Um, I come from a family that was split politically, either side of the aisle, which was more common back in the day. And I
mm,
think, and then I've lived in a lot of places that have been more left leaning historically, and I have borne witness to a lot of folks who, innocently have been the staunchest supporters or advocates for diversity. No human is illegal, but diversity of everything but thought. I want all diversity, but if you disagree with me, I'm cutting you out of my Tinder profile. I'm cutting you out of my friendship circle. And
mm,
that's not really an appreciation of diversity. And none of us will thrive in an echo chamber. A monoculture of any crop does not succeed.
mm,
And so I really appreciate you, yeah, bringing that expansive view and open and accepting view of all forms of diversity. I think that's really welcome.
mm. Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, brother. It's I wore this shirt, specifically to bring this aloha and to perpetuate it, not appropriate it. And then on my dome piece, I have the handkerchief from Sacred Sons,
Ah,
and so yeah, we dropped in a little bit around that, and so I think it's a good place to discuss like the men's work, right? The integrated self, and even for me running, I came across this notion because your reference like as the human, right? This
mm,
body politic,
hmm,
right?
hmm,
And so I came across that, and as a kinesiology major and personal trainer, like buff in the biomechanics of our bodies, right, and our
strong.
organisms, right, strong in the physical body, right. And I was like, okay, so how do I, what's my political body look like, right?
I love that.
And so from there, so I built Voltron essentially from that. It was like, all right, the leg that I'm going to stand on, my stability leg, is going to be, ecocultural tourism, right?
Mm,
Is like how that can support our economics, on Maui, and county of Maui is one of the top, vacation tourist, sought after locations.
mm,
And then from that, well, what's my swing leg, or the leg that I would utilize to talk, to tell a story, or
mm,
create a wave, right? And so that was water. And then I said, ole ikabai, water is life, many wachoni. And
Hmm.
we were at a time we were working on getting a charter amendment passed on the island in the Maui County Charter of basically a water authority, so
Hmm.
that we community water authority, right? Because most of the water on Maui is privately owned,
Hmm.
right? One of the things I think it might be the third largest privately owned water company in the United States of America is on Maui.
I have questions about that, but I don't want to derail us in the weeds. So you tell me if this is an appropriate time.
I mean, we can go, like like where we want to go, and we'll have
Well,
multiple
here's my
conversations. Yeah,
curiosity.
please
Water
do.
rights are a huge deal in the Mountain West where I live, especially in Colorado. We've got one of the most developed systems of water rights that goes back really hundreds of years. Uh, first in use, first in line principles. Hawaii becomes a state much later in the country's history. There's a multicultural tradition there that probably, I'm making assumptions, you tell me if I'm wrong, have different relationships to water and ownership of land and water. And so then you've got this sort of US legal framework that lands on top of it mid-century. And there's this private company that owns a lot of water, and yet the water's it's a conical island. The water's coming down from the top of the volcanoes down to the seaside, so it's going to pass past you unless it's captured. And so that all leads me to ask about like land acquisition. Does this company own land at a higher altitude, which allows them to capture, or are the water rights significantly different than what I experience in Colorado and Hawaii, in such a way that they have the ability to capture that? And did that have anything to do with statehood? And I'm sorry, that's a really long and rambling question.
Hey, let's you water. We go deep, right? Like that's for me. Let's go. Let's jump in the deep end together again. Um, you can see it. Maui specifically. I was just speaking about this the other day. The most abundant water source, right, on the island essentially is what landed there, just like you said, is all of the colonial and legal infrastructure,
Mm,
the state buildings, the county buildings, right, the like courthouses, like all of that, right? All of that is what landed is at literally the mouth of the largest water source coming into Maui, into the valley, the Central Valley of Maui.
mm,
So they established that,
mm,
right? Then also there's a high school across from this area, maybe 5 minutes up the same street. It's the high school is named Henry Perrine Baldwin, which is after one of the sugar barons,
mm,
right? Coming back to what happened on the monoculture, right?
mhm,
Right, agriculture that was happening, monocropping, and so that whole system was brought in by 5 families.
mm,
And there's a high school named after it. On one side of the high school is War Memorial Stadium, War Memorial Park, and on the other side is the Army Recruiting Center,
mm, mhm.
right? This is downtown Maui, right?
Sure.
This is uptown Maui, yeah, Wailuku. Then on the other side of the island, essentially, because we have Maui has two volcanoes, two conicals,
Hmm.
right? Two completely different ecosystems, but very
Mm,
different, right? A
mm,
lot of water on this island, very different than really any of the other islands because of that.
mm. Because there's a
Okay.
central basin between the two.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
was the like we can grow more food. Maui can grow more food than any other islands because one,
Sure.
it's not
You're
it's
holding
it's
water, not
almost the
just,
biggest, yeah, but
yeah.
it's shaped differently, even though Big
Yeah.
Island is what it is.
Yeah.
So that was the commons. That was the place of commerce. That was where trade went down,
Mm,
right? And that was the Royal Island. Hence, Lahaina was actually the capital district because it had the most accessible ports for all of that movement of trade and bartering of what the islands were producing, food
hmm.
and other crafts. So water, right? So that's why for me, this water amendment and water authority getting it into the community hands was one of the most powerful things that we could have done in
Mm,
terms of legislation, like written legislation that goes beyond who's in the office, right? And
sure.
so, I could take, like, I have pride in that and being part of that
Mm,
movement on Maui. It was way bigger than any person. This is about our water, and it moving into a public trust, moving
Mm,
into it being a public thing. And I've never heard of something last week, and then we'll come back to it because I know you got something to share on this, is the notion of growing water,
mm,
right? Never thought of that even conceptually in my own innovative mind until moving to Hawaii, moving to Maui, right? Is
mm,
this notion of growing water. And through our the knowing of how the natural laws, right? Knowing nature, being so indigenous and rooted still in those practices and traditions, we can actually, right? We can increase the amount of water we have flowing, right? We
mhm.
can, and how that will then award all of our other parts of the ecosystem, the earth, it cleans everything. So,
Mm. Yeah, that's cool.
yeah.
Man, I love listening to you talk, and I'm always so impressed at your depth of knowledge of history, and not just recent and legal history, but indigenous history, cultural history is very cool. You don't meet a lot of younger folks, and we're, younger. It's like maybe italicized a little bit at this point, but who have that backing, and I just think that's a really beautiful thing. Was that initiative successful?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. That was a huge win for our community.
beautiful.
And so I think it's really the instrument, from now too, like, and this aloha burn when we have time to go into that as well, but uh, setting up councils to establish a more decentralized governance model,
Hmm.
right? Which is what was happening before on those islands, anyways. It was much less centralized than it is now.
Yeah.
And so now you have literally, like, if I was mayor, right, or when I'm mayor of Maui, I would love to see it already change, but I would like to also initiate going forward with that indigenous wisdom of how to bring more of a councilship
Mm,
and to you know regionalize or localize our efforts,
mm,
because there's, I mean, nine ecosystems on one island on Maui, right?
mm,
And then you have all the other islands that are included in that county.
mm,
There is not one man or woman that can sit in an office and be able to distribute the energy, the water, the food, the shelter, the necessary things that all communities need, the power to distribute that in a right way, right, in the
mm.
most aligned way. It's something that needs to be done more locally, right?
Yeah.
What do we need? And then whoever is sitting in maybe that place of delegation or diplomacy representing can be a voice for uh, the people in that. But we don't need necessarily that anymore with the technology that we have now that allows
Mm.
for all of our voices to be heard and then, amplified in whatever best we suit from there.
Yeah, we had a similar situation when I was serving in office here. We're in the mountains, and water storage is really important, right? Especially in the high
Mm,
mountains, it's dry, water evaporates really quickly. You're on a slope, so there's runoff. It's not staying there. And so you need to be able to gather that. And so, most communities measure their water resource in, you know, water days or months or years. We were measuring our water security in water hours, right? If the
mm,
spigot were to be metaphorically turned off tomorrow, how long could our community function thereafter? And the answer to that was hours, not days. And like your community, a community that's also very susceptible and increasingly susceptible to forest fires, to drought, really scary. And we have water rights. So Colorado is based on first in time, first in line. And you can have rights that are used to capture the water, use the water. If you don't use or plan to have a use for that water, that right disappears and it goes to the next in line. And so we had the ability through planning to create two new reservoirs, but near a very well known, very historic, not historic, but very long lasting or long affirmed wilderness area. And
mm,
so there were understandably a lot of concerns around creating a dam in such a place. But there was also a large group of citizens who thought they could use it as a tool to constrain growth. let's get rid of this water right so we don't have the water, so that people would not feel safe in bringing more people here or developing more. It's actually a really, really scary and problematic way to get the result you want, to put your entire community at risk if there's a drought, if there's a fire, such that you can avoid some perceived external situation. And what we were able to do is to transfer that right to another site down the hill, actually near our golf course, where there's no concern for that wildlife, and to create a plan for an underground reservoir that from the top floor it's semi-permeable, so it kind of looks like grass, but actually underneath you can imagine a giant silo that would hold that water. And it was a way to maintain the safety and security for our community while working with those folks on a solution. And so it's just a relatable conversation to me, and I think it's so cool to hear that you have used the natural topography of your land, which should belong to everybody there, to retain a water right that provides security for the community in the long term in the face of climate change, population growth, and all these other things, but that fundamentally realigns the incentives as I see it. So, should there be a drought one day, the incentive of a public utility is to make sure that people are safe, happy, fed, that their crops grow. Because at some point, fundamentally, it wants them to continue to participate in that system, to vote for them, et cetera. Whereas a private utility, while we hope they would always do the right thing, also has an incentive to their shareholders. And there's an opportunity to raise prices in such a situation and compound the challenge. So I think you've done something really beautiful and prescient with the little bit I know for your entire community in a selfless way. And, that's probably something that hopefully actually never gets noticed because it never comes to that. But it's probably 10, 20, 30 years down the line. And it's not something you do for credit, it's something you do for community. So I just want to like honor that. And then I'll shut up and let you talk about whatever we should talk about.
No, bro. I mean, there's so much, alignment, like the different parts of our world find similarities in the processes. One thing about Maui and many island nations is, they're what we might look at as third world countries. They're a little bit farther behind in the technology, infrastructural, technologies available. So, a lot of the water issues isn't so much about not getting enough water, but rather our holding, our containment of the
That's right.
water, our distribution of the water, right? Our reservoirs, our how it's been moved, and the way that it was moved is archaic now, right? It's outdated, right? And so we're losing a lot of our water is just continuing to cycle through. So we're not necessarily losing, right? Water is, infinite in that way. I mean, it's regenerative in that way, right? But capturing that water, right? So loosening up, like next steps when we have a community water authority, it's like let's incentivize catchment systems. Let's incentivize, community, true community water like catchment systems, right? To be able to support those communities that are also localized for the demand of that area, right? And if that area has more water, can it support an area that's not getting as much as it needs, So I think reservoirs are one of the main areas that could be super supportive, for Maui specifically, and speaking and continue to represent, that. And this is as being a tourist attraction, like a cool reservoir. Imagine Hawaii style, right? Like in terms of the beautiful natural, elegance of the topography of that, and then to layer in, a reservoir that looks that natural style that's going to hold that water. And now we have those around. Like that would be to me one of the first things to put over in Lahaina, because we didn't have access to water. That was the biggest issue with fighting that fire. As a firefighter myself, like we didn't have water. When I heard that, I'm like, they didn't have water. They didn't have the pressure at the nozzle to be able to fight the fire. We got real big issues, and it's an infrastructure issue, right? The hydrants are old. the pumps, the electrical that does the pumps are not serving because we lost power, right? So
Mhm.
it's like these are things that just need to be updated because it is a public safety issue,
Yeah.
right? It
Amen.
needs to be put at primary directive and not
Mm.
something that's put on the back burner or we'll get to it kind of thing. Like this is basic, safety first,
Amen.
right? So yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Oh, good work, brother. Good work.
Yes, sir. So we're at like 306 right now. I got a cruise in say 20, 25 minutes. So just doing a quick time check with you on
Yeah,
your
that
time.
works. I have a 4:30 I'm jumping to, so I got 23 for you.
All right, perfect. There you go. MJ. It's a good number right there.
That's right. I'm
So
a Chicago boy, so I'm into it.
oh, man.
Where I grew
All
up.
right. All right. We got some things to talk about right now, brother. I'm gonna put you on the raw spot. Yeah, we're launching this academy, the
Mm,
Jedi Academy, and we got essentially a whole council of teachers.
mm,
So I have 11 teachers. I'm basically Phil Jackson in this analogy, if the
beautiful. Zen
coaching the
master.
Bulls, 96 Bulls, right? We're going
Fits.
for 72. So 12 of basically our team, and then we're going for 60 students,
Mm,
right, as our gold standard in setting the bar for this first inaugural course of the academy online. We'll be doing in person, in real live time as well, and this is going to be the full rollout right now,
beautiful.
and so I'm excited about how it's coming together. One of our teammates, I would say he's kind of been the Dennis Rodman, the wild card on the team, and at the same time I don't have a yay or nay from him, and so I was like, you know what, Skippy might be a good alternate, right,
Mm,
in that squad, so that when we come to season that
mm,
we're going in with a full team, and
mm,
if Rodman gets himself back in ready to play mode,
mm.
right, then that just adds even more to our overall success rate, what we're shooting
Yeah.
for.
Have you seen The Last Dance?
I've seen parts of it, but I haven't dove fully into that.
Okay.
But now I will, now that you've done it, because I've definitely binged on some things. I'm just like, I'm not. What am I watching right now? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
what
So
show
The Last Dance for the
am I
audience
watching?
is a Netflix series all about the Bulls in that era. And it's sort of a deep dive into the character arcs and the relationships. And the reason I'm bringing it up is there is a whole episode that is based on this exact problem, right? The Bulls they're crushing it, they're doing well, but Rodman is he's far afield, and I can't remember if it's in the playoffs or the championship or just a critical game, but there's a period where he is off partying unreachable in Vegas. And they're like, is he going to come back for this fucking game? And obviously, there's a lot of pressure from the press, from the fans. There's a lot of focus on this. And, MJ's perspective is like, you got to let him blow it off. Like, trust him and then hold him to account. And he shows up pretty last minute, and then he gets from soft love to tough love, and he goes out and has one of the best games of his life. So I don't know if that's valuable. It's not my wisdom, but that is the direct answer from the place in which you seek. uh,
I love it, bro. I remember that too. I remember living through that. I mean, I was a huge Bulls fan, even though I wasn't from Chicago. It's like Lakers and Bulls were my teams, as just being a basketball,
I mean, it was amazing, dude, to
junkie.
grow up in that era in
So,
Chicago and get to go to those
oh
games.
my
Like,
goodness.
it's amazing. It's amazing.
One of my only like oh man's in life, like I've lived a good one already and more to come, but seeing MJ, Jordan play like in live would have been one
Yes.
of those things. Both Michael Jackson and Michael Jordan, like the two MJs,
Yes.
and Magic Johnson, right? I didn't get to
Yeah.
see all three of those. Would have been like the trifecta of like live, sports entertainment, so
Yeah.
thank
It's cool.
goodness.
My stepdad, back in the day owned a nightclub called Baja Beach Club, and they happened to have one in Atlanta in '96, and that's where the Olympics were that year. I was not there. I was pretty young. I guess I was like 10 at that time. But my mom and my stepdad went down and they came back with me with a basketball signed by the whole dream team because they were all hanging out at the club, which included a lot of those folks, and that was very cool.
Uh, yeah, but wow, it is. It was. We had a incredible time, athletics. Yeah, and uh, and it's changing.
It
It's
is.
changing, and it's similar to many aspects of society right now. It's just like how do we reestablish more of that selfless, that fulfilling
Yes.
service, right?
Yes.
In these, occupations, right?
Yeah.
It's like these are occupations, and there's been like that's what I loved about the professionalism of the folks that we're just naming off right now. It's
Yes.
like a whole other level of professionalism, and that is something that is has been lost and gets to be
Mm.
found. You know, uh, and we're striving to that. Like you're a prime example of that. Even I've experienced your healing presence. And already many ways,
Mm.
and to see you wanting to deliver that and bringing that from just that's your being, right? It's like
Mm.
the essence of you is was like we got to lock in to an appointment, or right there's finance that has to transaction, right? It's more of
Mm.
that instead of the energetic exchange, right?
Mm.
Of like here, this is
Mm.
this is it right here, this is aloha. And then that to me is the type of you know um, spiritual economy,
Mm.
right? That
Mm.
we can also start to uh, make known and utilize through the technologies that we're seeing, coming forth. I know that the INC has been like last year. There was a lot of people in that space of how we use the blockchain and crypto
Yeah.
and things like that to help with these areas of commerce and commons, how the influencers are athletes or celebrities and these people, but you know that's transferring too into, I would say, changing over a bit of who we want to actually listen to or
Mm.
watch, right?
Mm.
At least for me, I can speak for myself. I rather sit here and have a conversation with you and have a whole like channel of
Mm.
the beautiful genius people that are out there bringing solutions. They're
Yeah.
actively involved in our communities, that are leading organizations that are about environmental stewardship, that are in service to humanity, that are looking at it multi generationally and through a diverse lens. Like,
Mm.
let's have more edutainment out there. Yeah,
Mm.
in the field.
Mm.
Let's put that stuff on. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
man. Yeah, I hear all of that. I do, although I have some marginal presence on social media, I haven't scrolled in years for that reason. I value face-to-face communication. I value relationship over transaction. I had a friend, he's still a friend, but he doesn't live here anymore. He was not in the political world in any way. We were like, snowboard buddies. And, but he would always say, every dollar you spend is a vote. You vote with your dollar, right? When you buy X, do you believe in the values of that company? Do you believe how they're treating their employees? Do you believe in their supply chain? Do you believe in their ecological responsibility? Every dollar is a vote, and it's energy. And so I love the idea of a spiritual economy because to me, spirit, and it's different to everyone, is just the connection between us and all things. And so recognizing that connection and the mutual impact we have. I'm fond of saying everything is contagious, right? Like COVID and kindness. And every time we act, uh, we have an opportunity to spread that, healing or viral infection to the recipient in conscious and unconscious ways. So I think that's exactly right. And I also don't want to skip past the question that you asked me. I was very flattered by that question of would you step in for Rodman if he's not there? And I just want to say like it's beautiful to be asked. And of course I would love to consider that. I I've spent years honing my craft as a coach. There's a lot I've learned, and there's a lot I don't know. So I am always interested in opportunities to share what I've learned with others for the development, healing, and success of others. And I need to also be mindful of guarding my time for programs and pedagogies where there's great alignment, where what I do well would actually matter, and where I believe in the program. And knowing you, I find very little chance that I will not believe in the program or the pedagogy, but I want to take a look under the hood before answering that question. And I also want to know in 100% integrity that I can offer something to you and your community. And I don't know that until I've seen it. So honored to be asked, would love to consider it. And I would also share that, we run a community program as well through the Healing Our Politics podcast. It is called The Lion's Pride in the Inner Sanctum. So there's my little lion right there, in case anyone's seeing the video. Kind of matches what's behind you. And we do some really beautiful work with folks. And I think increasingly this is about conscious leadership community coming together, not gatekeeping or walling things off or making it about me and my thing. And so I think there's also like great conversation to be had about how can we integrate, share resources, share learning, share connection for the amplification of all. So I think, that's how I think about that. And I wanted to make sure to honor your question by coming back to it.
Well, I'm honored by that right there. And I'm gonna honor you right here.
Hey.
See if this right comes up right here. So, right, like
Yes.
the alignment, in it,
The
and also
alignment, bro.
you're welcome.
Can I be stealing that? Can I
It's already
take that?
yours, bro. It's not mine.
Oh
That's the thing,
man,
right? That's
that's
spirit right
good.
there,
All right, I
right?
gotta
That's the
take a
spiritual
note.
economy, bro.
I
You
love
know,
it. I'm writing that shit down.
right?
Woo!
Elected leadership collective, right? I mean, as I said, the elk in the building, and there is a like from the Amakua place, in knowledge realm, like the elk is one of the most um, earthly attuned, uh, you know, animalia. Yeah,
You
you
said
know,
Anakua? Is that what you said?
Amakua.
Amakua. So
Yeah,
for the
spirit.
non-initiated, can you catch a brother up?
And Amakua, yeah, appreciate that question. Amakua would be like a spirit animal,
Okay, beautiful.
right? So like as a student to like what spirit animal carries particular characteristics and
Yes.
traits in them, right? And so like an elk, is very much like earth and air would
Mm,
be like the elements of that.
mm,
Uh, the antlers are representing basically the connection of
mm,
the air element and the really earthly grounded aspect of the elk. And then it's about abundance, and that abundance is in a prideful but family prideful type of way as well,
mm,
right? So they're very
mm,
family oriented.
mm,
And so and they're leaders, right? The elk like they lead. Yeah, they
mm,
lead in where they're going, and they create new paths,
mm,
right? So just adding that, into and then the honoring and coming around and wanting to look underneath the hood, right?
mm,
And so that's part of it too. Same thing. It's like we want to create that type of culture, in community, of leadership as an archetype. It's
mm,
not. It's decentralized. It's not about I'm leader and you're not, or somebody is and somebody isn't. We're
mm,
all leading ourselves home, and
mm.
so
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
so this collective piece of it, right, is brilliant, to really hold that. And I think that that's something that I also to look underneath the hood and knowing you, and like let's dive in and continue to, to play together. And so
Mm,
I'm gonna send over the player protocol, if you will, right, and kind of
mm,
like bring you up to speed of what the commitment, responsibility part would be.
mm,
I've designed it in a way that there's a lot of freedom
mm,
and a lot of time to be able to support one another and support the projects that we're already doing. And then we are a team in that together.
mm,
So whatever you have flowing, we're all like you have us on your team, just like you're all right. So that's the,
mm,
this is more of a team of leaders that will, after this 3 month academy, are going to like expand out and to franchises,
mm,
right? So we're the Bulls now, but we're the Toric Field, right? So
mm,
we're gonna branch out into an entire like association.
mm.
Yeah. So um, this is part of it, man. This is part of
Beautiful.
what we're doing in this co-creation and collaboration and the speed of it. And the last thing I was going to share too, thanks for giving me a chance to come back around to that. But from a political standpoint, this new administration coming in, we got maybe a couple more minutes to discuss a little bit on that. If I could hear
Oh, I'm
your,
sure we can wrap it in a couple minutes. It's very,
you know
very
what I mean?
simple and uncomplex. No, yeah, no problem.
That's why I left it for last. That way it doesn't take up the whole conversation. Sit
Fair
here all
enough.
day in that space, right? Let's give ourselves a little container to dive in. But something that I heard, and it was a TikTok video that this brother was sharing. That part of the administration is, all of the thousands of jobs is coming into a new presidential administration is going to be offered for like public politics, right?
Mm,
It's like community consensus type of
mm,
thing. So we'll be able to vote those people into the administration instead of they just being appointed officials by the president.
mm.
So that's a really interesting um, paradigm shift, to be happening right now. If there's truth behind it, and so I'm intrigued and curious to look further into that. So with
Yeah,
that
that's
being
the
said,
first
let's go.
I've heard of that. So I'd love if you have something you could send me, I'd love to read more. I'm not aware of that, and if that is in fact the case, the devil's in the details. But it sounds like a promising step towards participatory democracy, if true. And I say if true because I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's a big move, right? It's a big shift, and which is what's needed right now. Truly is like big shifts, and so wouldn't be. I would be pleasantly surprised.
yeah. I think that the telling thing about such a system is who are empowered and how are they empowered to vote. Is this
Mm,
something that's only available to my supporters, to my donors? Very different system than one that's available to all. And just because it's available doesn't mean one can find it, right? So it's also like, how does one vote? Do they need technology that's restricted only to those of means? Do they, you know what I mean? So I think that's why I
mm,
say devil's in the details, but participatory democracy, I think, would be is a beautiful thing within certain guidelines to yeah help liberate some of the greater struggles of our democratic system. And the whole point of the democratic system is renewal and is the ability to shift and learn over time. That is the primary benefit over autocracy, right? Is it's
mm,
nimble and it learns.
mm. So last question, uh, as coming from the Elks perspective,
Mm.
yeah, what what would you like to see in this participatory democracy if you could leave a legacy, an
Mm.
elk legacy, you know, in this
Mm.
place of healing politics and healing our
Mm.
politics? What would that look
So funny you asked that right now.
like?
I mean, I've spent a lot of time on structural democratic reform, and I could give you several TED Talks on that. I don't think that's the most important thing. I think the truth is that change starts with the human in the mirror. And what's really been coming through for me recently, which interestingly is precisely the thing I shared on stage at an event called Lead with Love in 2016 in the lead up to Trump's first election, which is the power of empathetically listening to folks who disagree with you with the intent to learn. More than ever, we are in our silos, in our chambers. More than ever, we have a belief of the other as an enemy, as evil, as wrong. We hear that from all parts of society, government, probably in our house. Truth is, we are all human. We are all fundamentally the same. We have different ideas and beliefs because we had different life experiences. If one another were in each other's shoes, our beliefs are likely to shift, and that might be hard for some to reconcile or believe, but I fundamentally believe that it is true. And as long as we treat our differences of thoughts as a threat, we will both internally be living in a place of fear and suffering, and externally in a place of conflict, which is the place in which nothing can get done. The situation gets worse, you confirm your fears, and we're in a cycle of degradation. Alternatively, if you can just make the commitment to self, start small. Read an article in the privacy of your home and like really commit to, I'm going to try to not argue in my head as I'm reading this, but really try to say, like, is there some truth in this? Can I have a shift? Can I find a human connection? And then expand it out to a friendly person who has a different view, maybe on something totally apolitical, right? Like we have different views on the deliciousness of bolognese, like I don't know, right? Something. And then, shift that out until you can really hear someone with a different political point of view. Your doing that is the best investment you can make in the future of our democracy and your children's future. Because if we can come to see each other as humans, to see opposing views as a benefit and not a threat, then we can work collaboratively. And when we work collaboratively, we can solve solutions as you did and I did as part of a group around water. And that reaps benefit for decades. And it improves our lives and it improves our mindset. And then we confirm that belief. And more, we're back in community. And that's what we're all really seeking, because all of the mental health challenges that we see today, whether they're presenting as the symptoms of depression, anxiety, or ADHD, these are, in my belief structure, and I think the science is more and more backing this up, different systems, different emergence of the same core condition of disconnection. And you can't connect by othering. You can only connect by opening your heart and opening your mind. So my one thing to do would be to try to genuinely empathetically hear a perspective that you disagree with the desire to be convinced otherwise, once a week, once a day, whatever you can commit to.
Boom. Mic drop.
You could actually drop that mic, which is fun.
Right, exactly. That shit was saucy right there. Yeah, man. You know, I want to just show right here too, Mike, and speak to that. What I heard you speak to a lot was the practice of agreeableness, right? To agree to disagree, right?
Amen.
And to do it pleasantly.
Yes.
And it's the aloha in politics right there. So thank you for your aloha. And it's up from a place of just like invite everybody in. And you and I, brother, just a quick like taking a deep breath in. So Hanu, let's take a deep breath in. Brother Skippy right here.
Thank you, brother. Love you. Love your audience. Love the great state of Hawaii and everyone. Like we're all in this together, brother. It's an honor to be here. I got to run to go serve somebody. But also say I know how this game works. It's all about supporting each other. So as you get this podcast out, let me know how I can support you, how I can collaborate so that more people can find your great work, and be happy to oblige. All right, brother.
Bananas on that one. For the rest of your day.
Ciao for now. Love you, dude.
Tuesday.
Ciao.